Driving, 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 music's blaring in my ears. Engines...
Welcome to Nonprofit Insider. My name is David Unger, and I'm pleased to be hosting a show with executive directors and key people of local nonprofits. I've worked in the nonprofit world for over 30 years. In those years, I've realized that the majority of the community does not know about the organizations that provide critical services and many of the benefits to our community that we sometimes take for granted. Nonprofit Insider is a chance to hear about the organizations that touch so many in our community. The opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff and underwriters, or of USM. Today we have two guests. We have Carrie Zeiss, who's the Chief Operating Officer, and Dan Coyne, the Senior Vice President of Community Impact of the United Way of Greater Portland. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Well, you did great with the weather.
Thanks. My first time.
I know, it's amazing. You know, I always ask the guests, you want to do the weather? And they always say, yes.
Helpful nonprofit types.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've all heard of United Way, or at least we hope that everybody in our community has heard of United Way, but how would you best describe it?
Sure. United Way is a fantastic organization. Our mission is to...
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Okay.
100%.
Our mission is to mobilize the caring powers of our community in furtherance of a vision that we collectively share based on shared community ideals around ensuring that children succeed in school, individuals have the opportunity to live a healthy life, and everyone has the opportunity to achieve financial well-being.
You used a term, shared community power?
Or ideals, goals. I mean, one thing that is a hallmark of United Ways and United Way of Greater Portland is that we really have our pulse on community needs and community goals, and it's in part through the volunteer structure that we use, the decisions we make in funding partner agencies and other types of work that we may use, strategies, public policy, advocacy, others, reflects input from volunteers and stakeholders across the continuum. And we come together to breathe life into those ideals.
All right, so let's say I make a donation to United Way. Let's explain to our listeners how that process works. So I make a donation to United Way. It goes into a large pool of money?
That's right. It does.
And
yes.
then what happens?
So we raise money every year. Part of our funding structure goes directly to service-related grants to partner agencies. And then the other part of it, we have a... which Dan will talk about in more detail. We have several initiatives that we're doing within the community where we're actually pulling together people to work on programs that are a little different than the direct service grants to the partner agencies.
So a direct service grant is an agency applies for funds and then they go through a committee process to determine whether those funds will be given to them.
Yes, and so currently we have approximately 37 partner agencies in which we fund approximately 83 programs across those agencies, and on a yearly basis, about half of those programs go through a review process where they will apply for funding and report on outcomes, logic models, how their work ties to the goals that we're hoping to see as a community, provide budget information, others. And we have a wonderful set of volunteers who every spring, that set of volunteers alone, more than 30 across these investment teams spend more than 1,000 hours working and reviewing these applications, meeting with the partner agencies, and making recommendations about where we want to fund those programs.
Do you find in today's marketplace, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the concept for this kind of campaign is a federated giving campaign where people give to one group and then you allocate it based on what your group decides the goals to be? Are you finding resistance in the marketplace about this type of campaign?
I mean, absolutely. I think that donors care deeply about connecting directly with the causes that they support. We definitely see that both as a system and at United Way of Greater Portland. And what we have been trying to do is make sure that people have ways to connect directly to the work, either through advocating for the work. We've invested in storytelling so people can understand the work that we're doing in the community and the work that we do in the community that's value add above and beyond the direct service funding. So where we're working to pull together programs and constituent stakeholders to attack community level issues and move the needle in areas like education, financial stability, and health. We have storytelling to talk about that more deeply.
Sure, and I think in addition to that, I think what we're trying to achieve, David, is both a reflection that we want to improve outcomes for individuals and families, but that we also want to see population level change, as Carrie mentioned, about moving that needle so that a child who may go through an after-school program so that they have a safe place to be after school gets out while parents may be at work, that there are quality outcomes there, but that all of that is in furtherance of a goal in education, for example, about increasing graduation rates, which an indicator along the way may be third grade reading rates. And so we end up seeing those individuals have a safe place to go and receive quality outcomes, but that we're seeing both municipal, school district, county-wide change so that we're moving people out.
Can you give I'm going to put you on the spot.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm known to do that. Can you give an example of a positive change in the community that has happened because of this process?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I think we have a lot. I can think of one that some work that we do that actually has profound effect for both individuals and whole communities, and that's something called CASH, Creating Asset Savings and Hope. And we think we're clever by putting a $sign at that S when we abbreviate it as an acronym. But that is work that is something around in Greater Portland. There are coalitions throughout the state, but United Way of Greater Portland provides a leadership role of a multi-sector approach. So you have financial institutions, other nonprofits coming to the table around saying, how can we increase assets for individuals and families, and by extension, benefit the whole community? And
When
so,
you talk about assets, what do you mean?
well, ultimately, I think that could be broad. It's around savings and increasing people's financial stability, but
Okay.
primarily, the chief activity that's associated with CASH is free tax preparation services for people who make roughly $57,000, $58,000 or less. They can come during tax season at one of these volunteer sites and have their taxes done for free. So the individual, the household, the family that goes through that free tax preparation service saves preparation fees, receives, maybe they qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is arguably the most successful anti-poverty tool out there in the toolkit that they didn't know they qualified for. But they end up receiving refunds. And so individuals are helped. They might receive an extra $2,000, and that they can take, and that might pay for car repairs. It's largely money that is maybe a little bit could be put into savings, but people are spending it maybe on basic needs, food, and it's spent in the community. And so when last year alone in Cumberland County, we returned almost $1.2 million in tax refunds through this work. That is money that helped those individuals, but it also helped buoy local businesses when that money's spent. And so I think it's a wonderful success story about what we do to help both individuals and try to achieve those larger population level outcomes.
So to put it in real basic terms, you raise money and then you allocate money out to help the community.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to somebody about contributing to United Way, what is the most common reason people say no to?
That's a great question.
I've been thinking about that one for a week.
That is a good question. Well, from my perspective, I might say that we are primarily a funder of health and human services. And occasionally you have someone who may say, oh, but I would like to fund something that may be more tied to animal welfare, something like that. And that's just something that we have a very
making this
broad
up.
perception, right?
Yeah, right.
And so that there may be a very specific, extraordinarily specific cause that someone may want to contribute to. And while we are very broad and fund a lot, education, financial stability, and health, 3 huge areas. And so we cover a lot, and we know that there are 3 very integrated areas, in that a student, for example, or a child might be tougher for he or she to succeed in school if they show up hungry, if their parents are unemployed, recently lost a job, something like that. But if there's something that's a very specific issue that doesn't so much fall into health and human services, I think that may be why someone...
All right, so suppose they contribute to health and human services.
Mm-hmm.
They understand the whole core of philanthropy and what it means. and you approach them and say, no, I'm not giving to United Way. How come? What would you say to them?
Well, I think we would welcome the opportunity to tell them about the work that we do, which is an extension of the cause that they care about. I think where United Way provides a great deal of benefit is that in some ways we're able to collectively pull together the needs of many and align funding to fill gaps that might not be filled right now. So where we have individual agencies and partners who are working in incredible ways and who deserve the funding that they get, absolutely, what we can sometimes do is align the funding structures and help launch new programs before there's readiness for it in the market so that it can get up and fly, so to speak. But I think that is one thing that we do exceptionally well. We weave together volunteers, access to corporate dollars.
Could you say the United Way was the safety net of the community in many ways?
We think of ourselves that way.
I agree.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we're at our midway point, and every week this time we have our trivia question. And I have to admit that this one is going to be a doozy.
Oh, boy.
Okay, it's a 3-part trivia question. Ready?
We're ready.
Could we go back to the weather?
It's a 3-part trivia question, and we'll ask the question, then I'll do my mid-break, and then we'll come back. And
Okay.
I'm guessing I'm going to have to give you the answer. Where and when were the roots of United Way established? Where and when did it evolve into the community chest? And what organization did the community chest model itself after?
Oh, goodness.
Do.
Well, I mean, I know.
Okay. This is Nonprofit Insider, and I'm David Unger on WMPG 90.9 Community Radio for Southern Maine and Eastern New Hampshire. Today we have Carrie Zeiss, Chief Operating Officer of the United Way of Greater Portland, and Dan Coyne, Senior Vice President of Community Impact of the United Way of Greater Portland. Do you have an answer?
Well, I know locally we were founded in 1928 by Walter Reynolds.
No, not locally. I said nationally.
Was it Denver?
The roots started in Denver. Yes, back in 1887. When did the first community chest evolve and where? The community chest evolved in 1913 in Cleveland, Ohio, and was modeled after the Jewish Federation of Cleveland.
Ah, that's why you have that one. Well,
Why? Because I was the exec at one point? No, I'm always fascinated about roots of organizations, especially national organizations like this. So let's go back to the whole concept of the safety net. Okay, so one of the programs I believe is 211.
yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. 211 is a critical resource that's available to everyone in Maine. It is a 24/7 Health and Human Services information referral service that if someone has a question, they need help with heating assistance, they have a question related that may be a legal issue in there with certain perhaps income guidelines, they could get referred to, say, a Pine Tree Legal Assistance, for example. Any type of health and human services related question that you just don't know where to turn, someone can call. So you often see when there are ads available, I think as you hear for, say, Oxford Casinos at the end about if you have problems with gambling addiction, please call 211. It runs the gamut. It could be mental health issues, substance abuse issues, what have you. 211 is a resource. It has thousands and thousands and thousands of resources available that the call specialist will be able to receive a call, talk to the person, really uncover what the issue may be, and refer that person to the most appropriate resource. It is critically important and absolutely wonderful.
Have you seen the statistics increase?
We have, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Call volume has been somewhat steady at around 77,000 calls a year.
77,000?
Calls a year, yes, that's right. And we have seen an uptick in website usage for sure. People are accessing the information in different ways now through the 211 portal. We definitely see a seasonality element in the calls for sure. In winter, there are more calls related to heating assistance, and then a corresponding lift in a need for support for electricity bills that are due in April once the
Right.
heating season ends. So there's a substantial need out there.
One of the things that I've always been extremely impressed with not only the United Way of Greater Portland, and I've worked with United Ways all over the country, and this is by far one of the standout ones. So
you.
you guys do a really good job. Is the way you use loan executives.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
it is such an unusual model where the business community partners with you. They give people to you to help work their campaign, to help you work your campaign. And they're basically your staff for what, 8 weeks?
Yeah, 13 weeks.
13 weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we have our loan executive class in place for this year, and they just finished at the end of the first week of training. They have an opportunity to stand up in front of us and our campaign chair, who is Mike Simons at Unum this year, and give a presentation, their first public speaking engagement about why they're here doing the work. And it is so inspirational to hear those stories.
And if I remember correctly, the companies themselves pay their salaries as if they were working every day. So that's countless volunteer actual dollars.
It's an amazing resource.
And how many loan executives do you have?
This year we have 8 loan executives who are with us. It has ranged between 8 and 13, I think, at the high. We have seen a slight shift. Some companies are providing us with sponsorship support in lieu of people.
Okay.
I think in the current workforce, it gets harder to let go valuable people for that long of a period of time. But we have incredible corporate support on the campaign, for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about what you see some of the roadblocks are, because this is where I think, if we can share with the community about what the maybe misperceptions of what United Way is and help clear those up, maybe that could help people understand a little bit about your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go back to the reasons why people don't give. So I know there has been resistance, there was resistance 10 years ago or so about the whole concept of designated giving. So you have that now.
We do, yes.
Where a donor can actually say, I want to give my check to United Way, but I want it to go to so-and-so.
That's right.
So
yes.
you can handle the animal welfare piece as the example you gave with that.
We have our designation policy. For the most part, we still try to honor the Health and Human Services focus. We have, those are conversations we have all the time is, how do you stay related to our mission and yet still give donors the opportunities that they want, right? There are private companies that do donor processing directly, and we think United Way is a little different than that.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. So a donor can give a designated gift.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
You have, if I remember reading your website correctly, there's kind of an event happening in a week or so.
That's right. September 11th is the National Day of Service, and we use this as a kickoff. We commemorate the day with a large community food drive. So on September 11th at One Canal Plaza in Portland, we are going to be collecting food and then giving it to Wayside. Last year, I think we did the math, and between food and donations, we raised, I think we said 18,000 meals in a single day.
Wow.
Which is tremendous, and
Yes.
there's such a need.
What is the goal of the campaign this year?
The goal is 7.5 million.
And is that up or down from
It's
last
up
year?
just a tick.
Just a tick.
Yes.
So when you talk about the campaign, it starts September 11th.
That's right.
And when's the official end date?
And the campaign used to have a finale at the end. What we have
It
found
was a
is
big dinner or something,
yeah,
right?
a big, sort of community-wide event. And, we're now working with our corporate partner schedules. And what we found is that the campaign, for the most part, the activity is completed by the beginning of December, but it continues on throughout the year. We're finding that idea of a traditional seasonal campaign is dissipating as companies themselves become more annually engaged in our work.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find resistance? Do you still have the blackout periods?
No.
No, so an agency
Yeah.
can raise money during your campaign time.
Yeah, we don't have an official. There's no blackout policy.
Oh, I used to get in trouble for that. If you had to pick one program that United Way does, and take away the whole funding piece
Yes.
and the partners and everything else, something that you do internally that you want to hang your hat on and say, this is it, this is what represents our community, what would it be?
That's another really
Yeah.
difficult question because there is so much.
I know, and I'm asking you to pick one.
I know, and this is what really becomes hard.
And you'll
but
get back to the office and everybody say, you didn't pick mine.
That's right.
Exactly. I would probably say something, and I'll use this as an example of the new way, I think, of what we're doing, and that probably not as many people are aware of United Way about. But when I referenced at the beginning about trying to help both individuals and families, but also achieve population level outcome, one strategy that we're embracing is something called collective impact, which is a super enhanced form of collaboration where there's a set of common goals, shared measurement, continuous communication, a backbone function that someone's providing an administrative home. In both Westbrook and Portland, we are providing that backbone support at the request of community partners that are multi-sector, from public and private to.
Define what that means.
So hopefully I'll get into it and not take too long. But what we do is we provide for these two cradle to career continuums. In Westbrook, we're for the entire cradle to career continuum. In Portland, we're for the 0 to 8 portion of the spectrum, and it's called Starting Strong. But as the backbone, we help bring together all those community partners and even just provide the staff support from logistical things as getting the agenda and meeting minutes out, but helping really bring those partners together to adopt, identify, and then implement the strategies that are needed over the long term to be able to increase graduation rates, to recognize that that so much of a student's ability to succeed in school also takes place outside the classroom. And so in the summer months, we want to make sure to combat summer learning loss, or to handle the time after school. We need to bring everybody together in a new way to be able to really see that population level change. And we're doing that, and I think it's something that people aren't as familiar with us about, but is really exciting. And it allows us to share that with so many wonderful community partners.
Do you have the opportunity for people just to call you and volunteer?
We are a volunteer center, and we have on our website a connection to Volunteer Maine. So where we, the United Ways of Maine, have all put money into fund this website that will connect you to any volunteer opportunity. Your partner agencies can use it. It's open to many. You can call our office to find out more about. We tend to do more groups. We have a Day of Caring that will happen in October, where we bring together our last Day of Caring, which happened in May, brought together over 1,200 individuals to volunteer.
That's an incredible program.
It is. It's a full day of volunteering and a massive amount of work gets done. And it's, work that impacts many of the people that you've been
Right.
talking to. So,
I mean, in terms of being a former agency exec who took advantage of that,
Yeah.
I mean, it was really a nice, it brought people together.
yeah.
And, it saved the agency a lot of money, and because here's your projects, let's
Yeah.
do it.
It's such a win-win-win. There's so much good that comes out of that day.
Do you have any questions for me? I've been asking you all the questions, and some of them were hard, including the trivia question.
If we're invited back, we got to think of trivia questions, I think.
think so.
Well,
Oh, I can nix those. It's still my show.
What do you see as a constant theme coming out from all of these interviews as a really critical need in the community right now?
Oh, the need is incredible. And I think it's when I ask people and I treated this interview a little differently because it's United Way versus a
Yeah.
specific agency. And I always ask them, what do you see the biggest problem that you're facing as an agency exec?
Yeah.
And I say, you can't talk about funding.
Right.
It's board development, which is an ongoing theme. But
Right.
the biggest thing that I'm finding is that more execs are asked to do more right now.
Mm-hmm.
So with budget cuts and restrictions and everything else, the execs are finding that they're multitasking the multitasks.
That's right.
And it's really hard to stay consistent with what you need to do to lead the organization through whatever, because you get called to do something else.
Right.
I'm working with this one agency now as an interim executive director, and I can't get focused on fundraising sometimes because I'm getting focused in on staff management. And
Right.
so, I have to figure out how to do that and make that balance. So,
Yeah.
and that's been an ongoing challenge that I've had as an exec. So, those are some of the bigger challenges. And, so if United Way could figure out a way of providing the sort of professional training and support to the execs, especially within your system, or even giving them a chance to just vent with each other.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
an informal basis, I think that would be a valuable asset.
Right.
So, well, this was great. And if someone wanted to contact you and get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Our website is unitedwaygp.org. There's a staff page. It has our phone numbers and our emails. You're welcome to reach out. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been great.
I'm glad we had the chance to do that. Next week, we have Chris Franklin, and Chris is the Executive Director of the Cape Elizabeth Land Trust. So we talked with a statewide organization. Now we're talking with a local group. Music appears courtesy of Mike Hubbard. You can find it on www.michaelhubbardmusic.com. Check out Mike's website to see where he's playing this weekend. Thanks to Deb Danger, NPI's Executive Engineer. You can catch Deb on Morning Streets Friday at 6:30. If you know of a nonprofit that should be on the show, please email me at npi@davidunger.net. Past shows are archived at www.tcmg.